Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Today I want to talk about my very favorite Shakespeare play, The Winter's Tale. I mentioned in an earlier video that until about 15 years ago, I knew almost nothing about Shakespeare. I had, however, seen a friend of mine in a production of The Winter's Tale back in college, and I really loved it. That feeling has stayed with me for more than 30 years. Even now that I have experienced many more Shakespearean productions, it's still my favorite play. I even passed my love of this play to my college-aged and Shakespeare-obsessed son. I've been lucky enough to see The Winter's Tale staged, I believe, 5 times in the past decade. 2 different productions at Washington, D.C.'s Folger Library Theater, once at D.C.'s Shakespeare Theatre, once at the magnificent American Shakespeare Theatre in the Staunton, Virginia recreation of Shakespeare's indoor Blackfriars Playhouse, and at the Chesapeake Shakespeare Company in Baltimore, Maryland. Yes, I love this play. The Winter's Tale begins in the kingdom of Sicilia, where Leontes and Hermione are being visited by Leontes' childhood friend Polixenes of the kingdom of Bohemia. After a stay of 9 months, Polixenes is making plans to return to his own kingdom. Leontes urges him, unsuccessfully, to stay a little longer. He then encourages his wife Hermione to try to convince his friend to extend his trip. Very quickly, she succeeds. Leontes is overtaken with jealousy, immediately wondering if the reason Hermione was able to persuade Polixenes was because she was having an affair with him. He even begins to wonder if his pregnant wife is carrying the baby of Polixenes rather than his own child. His jealousy escalates quickly and intensely, and he lashes out at both of them. Leontes arranges to have Polixenes killed, although he escapes, to have Hermione thrown in prison where she gives birth, and to have their new baby taken into the woods to die. Leontes consults the oracle at Delphi, assuming that it will confirm his jealous assumptions that Hermione was unfaithful. Instead, the oracle confirms that Hermione is innocent, that she did not have an affair with Polixenes, but Leontes does not believe the news and continues to rage against his wife. At that moment, word comes that their first child, a young boy, has died of grief. Hermione faints. Her body is taken away by her attendant Paulina, who reports to Leontes that she's died. He begins to see that his unaccountable jealousy has destroyed his family, ruined a friendship, and led to the death of his wife and both children. Nevertheless, his immediate grief doesn't yet fully allow him to come to terms with the cruelty he's inflicted. Time then comes into the play, quite literally, walking on stage to tell us that 16 years have passed. This kind of jump in chronology is unusual in the Shakespeare canon. Another major jump occurs here. We go from the tragedy in the first act in Sicilia to comedy of the second act in Bohemia. In good fairy tale fashion, the child taken into the woods grows up and becomes a beautiful young woman, Perdita, a name meaning lost. She has fallen in love with Polixenes' son, a prince who thinks his love is a shepherd's daughter rather than a princess herself. I won't go into the details of how the romance progresses, except to say that it leads the characters back to Sicilia, where we begin to see that a family reconciliation might be possible. The newly reunited family goes to Paulina's house, where she shows them a beautiful statue of Hermione. The artist has crafted it to look like Hermione would now, not as she was when she was announced dead. The statue is so lifelike that the visitors are overwhelmed. When the viewers go to touch the sculpture, Paulina holds them back, telling them that the statue of Hermione has been so recently completed that the paint is not yet dry. As she sees Leontes' heart breaking open, Paulina offers to show him more. Earlier he had believed that his wife was unfaithful to him, so he loses faith in his wife's honesty. Now, though, he must accept that he was wrong. He must show trust and open belief. As Paulina says, it is required you do awake your faith. Unfaithfulness turns into faith, and the statue of Hermione begins to move. Hermione is restored to life and to her husband and the daughter she does not know. Interestingly, although the newly animated Hermione wraps her arms around her husband, she never speaks to him. She saves all her words for her daughter, Perdita, the child no longer lost, opening up to her in ways she does not quite seem to do to her husband. Perhaps she's thinking of their dead son, the tragedy that is still with us as we watch this family try to reconstruct their lives, despite the pain of lost son and lost time. We as modern viewers are unlikely to believe that Paulina or the sculptor perform any kind of magic to bring Hermione to life. There's certainly a few references to suggest that Paulina had kept her in hiding for all those missing years until she sees Leontes' complete atonement. But there are other moments where the rational explanation doesn't seem to work quite as well. Regardless, either way you look at it, the renewal and rebirth that we see in Hermione and in the family as a whole is magical. Hermione's rebirth can be read in a lot of ways, but one is that it could be a religious allegory. All the talk about faith and about grace starts to make a different kind of sense if we imagine that Hermione's resurrection is an echo of the resurrection of the body of Christ in the New Testament. Paulina is our Paul, calling us to have faith in the resurrected body. I'm a secular person, and I'm no religious scholar. I'm more intrigued with the links between The Winter's Tale and other Shakespeare plays. As a playwright, Shakespeare often returned to themes over and over, of treating them as comedies, tragedies, and romances in different plays. As Kelly and Jason point out in their video about this play, The Winter's Tale explores themes of jealousy in ways that are not dissimilar to Othello. Time is what is different here, and what allows the happier ending. Time allows Leontes to transform his jealousy and his rage into mourning, and then into understanding and healing. There are also links here between Hermione's story and that of Hero in Much Ado About Nothing. Claudio's jealousy is just as senseless as Leontes' jealousy. He suffers thinking Hero has died because of his jealousy, but he is quickly given her back without ever really being required to atone for his mistake and cruelty to her. Leontes, on the other hand, recognizes and comes to terms with the destruction he brings to his family. He's a character that uses his pain to grow, to understand the pain of others, and even to acknowledge how he is to blame for the pain of others. Hermione grows too. She doesn't immediately get pushed back towards marriage with the person who hurt her and rejected her. Instead, she gets to see her husband go through a deep atonement. And perhaps her silent moments with him at the end hints that she's still watching, open-hearted, but not yet blindly accepting his transformation. Thanks for joining me today. See you soon.